This is my sister Emma, and this is Olivia. My older sister smiled as she looked at me. Then she added with a laugh loud enough for everyone to hear. She works at a grocery store. Don't expect much conversation from her. The room exploded with polite laughter. My mother covered her mouth, pretending to hide her smile. My father chuckled openly. 120 wedding guests turned to look at me before quickly returning to their champagne and conversations. I stood there holding my gift bag, feeling like I had disappeared in front of everyone. But none of them, not my parents, not my sister, not even the groom, knew the truth. The man Emma was about to marry had spent the last 5 years searching for the woman who had saved his family's future. And that woman was me. Before I tell you what happened, take a second to like this video if stories about family, justice, and second chances mean something to you. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories every week. My name is Olivia Carter. And this is the day my family finally realized they had been laughing at the wrong daughter. Growing up, I was never the favorite. Emma was beautiful. Emma was confident. Emma was everything my parents wanted. She won beauty pageants. She was homecoming queen. She dated football players. Every family photo had Emma standing in the center. I was usually somewhere near the edge. If there wasn't enough room, I was the one asked to move. Whenever relatives visited, Mom would proudly introduce Emma. This is our star. Then she'd point at me. And this is Olivia. Nothing more. No achievements. No compliments. Just Olivia. After years of hearing it, I stopped expecting anything different. When I graduated high school with honors, Dad forgot to come because Emma had a cheerleading competition. When I earned a scholarship to college, Mom said, "That's nice, sweetheart." 5 minutes later she spent an hour talking about Emma's new boyfriend. Eventually I stopped sharing good news. It hurt less that way. College wasn't easy. I couldn't afford expensive apartments or meal plans. I worked evenings stocking shelves at Miller's Grocery just to pay tuition. Sometimes I'd finish class at 4, work until midnight, study until 2 in the morning, then wake up at 6. It wasn't glamorous. But it was honest. Every paycheck reminded me that I was building a life without depending on anyone. After graduation I stayed with the company. Most people assumed I never moved beyond stocking shelves. They were wrong. Within 4 years I became regional operations manager. I supervised 15 stores across Connecticut. I managed more than 300 employees. My salary was larger than my father's had ever been. But I never bragged about it. When my parents asked what I did, I simply said, "I still work for Miller's." Emma filled in the blanks herself. "So, still stocking shelves?" I smiled. "If that's what you want to believe." She always did. 3 months before the wedding, Emma announced she was marrying Daniel Brooks. Daniel came from one of the wealthiest families in the state. His father owned a chain of hospitals. His mother served on several charity boards. The wedding would be held at the prestigious Greenwood estate. 120 guests. A live orchestra. Fresh flowers flown in from Europe. Emma posted every detail online. She called it my fairy tale wedding. My invitation arrived 2 weeks later. Cream-colored envelope. Gold lettering. My name misspelled. Again. No +1. My seat assignment was already printed inside. Table 12. The last table near the kitchen. I wasn't surprised. A week before the wedding, Mom called. "You'll be there, right?" "I haven't decided." "You have to come." "Why?" "Because people will ask questions if you're missing." Not because they wanted me there. Because my absence would look bad. I closed my eyes. I'll think about it. The rehearsal dinner answered every question I still had. The ballroom looked like something from a movie. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. White roses covered every table. Servers carried silver trays through the room. Emma floated between guests like she owned the place. She introduced everyone. My parents. My maid of honor. My college roommates. My future in-laws. When she reached me, she barely slowed down. "Oh, and this is Olivia." One guest smiled politely. "What do you do?" Before I could answer, Emma laughed. "Nothing exciting." Then she walked away. Daniel noticed. He glanced back at me with a confused expression. For just a second. Then the conversation pulled him away. Later that evening I stepped outside onto the terrace. I needed fresh air. The laughter inside felt heavier than the summer humidity. I leaned against the railing. Behind me, voices drifted through the open doors. Emma. Mom. Dad. They thought no one could hear them. "Are you sure she won't embarrass us?" Mom asked. Emma laughed. "Relax. Nobody notices Olivia anyway." Dad answered next. "They'll forget she's even here." Those words hurt more than I expected. Not because strangers ignored me. Because my own father believed I was forgettable. I almost left that night. I even walked toward my car. My hand was already on the door handle when someone called my name. "Olivia?" I turned. It was Daniel. Still wearing his navy suit. Tie loosened. Holding 2 bottles of water. "You disappeared." I needed some air. He handed me 1 bottle. "My family can be overwhelming too." I smiled for the first time that evening. "You're lucky." "Why?" "They're kind." He looked surprised. "I've noticed something." "What?" "The way your family talks to you." I stayed silent. "It isn't right." Those 4 words nearly broke me. Because they were the first kind words anyone in my family circle had spoken to me in years. The next morning was the wedding. I almost didn't go. But something inside me refused to let fear decide. I wore a simple navy blue dress I'd bought on clearance for $42. The only jewelry I owned belonged to my grandmother. Small silver earrings. Nothing expensive. Everything meaningful. When I arrived, guests stepped out of luxury cars wearing designer suits and gowns. I parked my 10-year-old Honda at the far end of the lot. No valet. No attention. Exactly where my family expected me to be. Inside, the ceremony was beautiful. Daniel smiled the entire time. Emma looked radiant. For a brief moment, I actually believed the day might pass peacefully. I couldn't have been more wrong. Because the real humiliation had been saved for the reception. And before the night was over, 1 sentence from my sister would change everything. "She's just the daughter we never had to be proud of." She said it into a microphone. In front of 120 guests. She expected everyone to laugh. Most of them did. But 1 person didn't. Daniel. The groom slowly turned toward me. With a look of complete shock on his face. And at that exact moment, he recognized who I really was. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The laughter slowly faded as Daniel kept staring at me. His expression had changed completely. It wasn't anger. It wasn't confusion. It was recognition. The kind that arrives all at once. Emma noticed. She smiled nervously and touched his arm. "Daniel?" He didn't answer. Instead, he walked away from the dance floor. Past the guests. Past the wedding cake. Past the photographers. Straight toward me. 120 pairs of eyes followed him. I stood frozen beside my table. Daniel stopped only a few feet away. His voice was quiet. "Your name is Olivia Carter, isn't it?" I nodded. "Yes." He swallowed hard. "Were you working at Miller's Grocery 5 years ago?" I frowned. I was. The ballroom became silent. Daniel closed his eyes for a second before smiling. I knew it. Emma looked completely confused. "What are you talking about?" Daniel ignored her. He looked back at me. "You probably don't remember me." "I remember thousands of customers." He laughed softly. "I wasn't shopping." "You weren't?" "No." He took a deep breath. "My mother collapsed in your store." The memory hit me instantly. An elderly woman. Heart attack. Rainy afternoon. Customers screaming. Someone calling 911. I remember. Daniel nodded. I was 24. My father was overseas on business. I thought I was about to lose my mom. The room remained perfectly still. You were the only person who stayed calm. You cleared the aisle. You instructed everyone to move back. You called emergency services. And then. His voice cracked. You performed CPR. Emma's smile disappeared. My parents looked at each other. Daniel continued. You kept my mother alive for almost 9 minutes until the paramedics arrived. I looked down. It was just instinct. No. Daniel said firmly. It wasn't. My mother survived because of you. My father tells that story every Thanksgiving. He always says. If that young woman hadn't been there, our family would have buried my mother. A murmur spread across the ballroom. Guests began whispering. Emma's face turned pale. She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. Daniel slowly turned toward the crowd. I've spent years trying to find the woman who saved my mother's life. The security cameras only showed part of her face. The store refused to release employee information. My parents even offered a reward. We never found her. He smiled. And today, I married into her family. No one moved. The silence was overwhelming. Then Daniel looked directly at Emma. You knew. Emma blinked. Knew what? That your sister worked at Miller's. Yes. And you never once told me. Emma opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Daniel looked toward my parents. Did either of you know? Dad cleared his throat. We heard something about it years ago. Hear something? Daniel repeated. The woman who saved my mother's life is your daughter. And you heard something? Neither of them answered. Daniel slowly walked onto the stage. He picked up the microphone Emma had used to humiliate me only minutes earlier. Ladies and gentlemen. His voice echoed through the ballroom. I'd like to tell you who Olivia Carter really is. Every conversation stopped. This afternoon, my wife introduced Olivia as someone who wasn't worth talking to. She laughed at her. Many of us laughed too. He looked around the room. I almost did. But I recognized her. He pointed toward me. 5 years ago. She saved my mother's life. Without asking for recognition. Without asking for money. Without telling anyone. My parents searched for her for years. And today, we discover she was sitting in the back of our own wedding. Several guests gasped. One older gentleman slowly stood and began clapping. Another followed. Then another. Within seconds, nearly every guest was on their feet. The applause filled the ballroom. I had never experienced anything like it. I wanted to disappear. Instead, people were looking at me with respect. Not pity. Respect. Daniel stepped off the stage and walked back toward me. He extended his hand. Would you do me the honor of standing beside me? I hesitated. I don't want to ruin your wedding. He smiled. You aren't ruining it. You're reminding everyone what actually matters. I walked beside him. The applause continued. Emma remained frozen beside the cake. The spotlight that had followed her all evening now rested on me. Daniel spoke again. My mother couldn't attend tonight. She's recovering from surgery. But if she were here, she would be hugging Olivia right now. At that exact moment, the ballroom doors opened. Everyone turned. A woman wearing a navy dress slowly walked inside. Daniel smiled. Mom. His mother had decided to surprise them after all. She looked around the room before her eyes landed on me. She froze. Then tears filled her eyes. It really is you. She walked toward me without hesitation. When she reached me, she wrapped both arms around me. I never got to thank you. I've prayed for you every single year. You gave me more birthdays. You gave me grandchildren I'll get to meet someday. She pulled back, holding my hands tightly. I'll never forget you. I couldn't speak. Neither could most of the guests. Even the photographers had stopped taking pictures. Daniel's father walked over next. He shook my hand with both of his. Olivia. You changed our family's life. I wish we'd found you sooner. Then he turned toward my parents. His smile disappeared. I honestly don't understand. He spoke calmly. How could anyone treat a daughter like this? My father looked down. My mother couldn't answer. For the first time in my life, they looked embarrassed. Not because of me. Because of themselves. Emma suddenly stepped forward. I'm sorry. Her voice trembled. I didn't know. Daniel looked at her. No. You just never cared enough to ask. Those words landed harder than shouting ever could. Emma began crying. Real tears. Not the kind for photographs. The kind that come when your own reflection finally catches up with you. She looked at me. I spent my whole life trying to be the important one. I never realized you already were. I looked at her for several long seconds. I never wanted to compete with you. I just wanted a sister. She covered her face and cried. Our mother quietly walked toward me. I failed you. Simple words. 20 years late. But honest. Dad followed. I laughed. I'll regret that laugh for the rest of my life. I nodded. I believe you. But healing doesn't happen because of one apology. It happens because tomorrow you choose to treat me differently. Neither of them argued. Daniel's father smiled gently. I think tonight deserves one more toast. A server handed him a glass. He raised it high. To Olivia. A woman who proved that kindness doesn't need an audience. Character always reveals itself. And the people who shine the brightest are often the ones sitting at the quietest table. Every guest raised a glass. To Olivia. The ballroom echoed with the words. For the first time in my life. My name wasn't an afterthought. It was spoken with pride. 3 months later, my phone rang. It was Daniel's father. Our company has launched a nationwide community outreach program. We need someone to lead it. I've watched your work. I've spoken with your managers. I'd like to offer you the position. The salary was more than double what I had been making. The job focused on helping food banks, local stores, and community charities work together. It was exactly the kind of work I loved. I accepted. Things at home changed too. Not overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild that quickly. But every Sunday my father called. Every birthday my mother remembered. Emma started therapy. She apologized more than once. Not because Daniel asked her to. Because she finally understood what she had done. A year later, our family gathered again. No ballroom. No luxury decorations. Just a simple Thanksgiving dinner. This time my father looked around the table. Then he smiled. Olivia. Would you sit beside me? It was the smallest request anyone else could imagine. For me, it meant everything. As we finished dinner, Daniel quietly leaned over and whispered. You know what I learned from all this? What? The loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Sometimes, the strongest person is the one everyone overlooked. I smiled. Because he was right. My parents laughed when my sister humiliated me in front of 120 guests. They thought my worth depended on how impressive I looked. But respect isn't earned through expensive weddings. Or designer dresses. Or perfect photographs. It's earned by the way you treat people when nobody is watching. And in the end, that was the only thing anyone remembered from that wedding.